Okay, everybody. First off, welcome. Second off, thank you for being so lively. It's not that you're just here, but you're here, which is kind of fantastic. What I've got is a quick hit for you. Pull your clickers out for me, please, and I will get the software going. And you are cohort 3. Oh, great. Thanks, Mike. So, everybody, we have the sign now. So here's number 1. First off, thank you. So, thank you very much, Eric, Emil, Gary, for coming. So I guess there's only one answer here. But we're so appreciative of your time and all the help you gave us last fall. I can't tell you how much it meant to all of us. So, are we at 117? 20. Adrian? Adrian, where are you? Good? You're in? Okay. Okay, sweet. I think we're pretty much done with that. We're at 125. And let's see, how'd everybody do? Oh, excellent. Congratulations. And I've got one for the end. So let's take, Michael, should I put the camera on both? Okay. There? Yes. Okay. Okay.
We can pass this guy.
This is good too.
I'm good.
Okay.
Awesome. Thank you guys, everybody, for coming in. We're super psyched to be here. And we're super excited that you guys were learning about us for the past couple of weeks. Small startup out of Denver, so it's pretty awesome to be able to get some reach like this and get you guys all to get excited about it. So I'm Eric. I run the digital marketing and quite a bit of our paid marketing. So there's our marketing department just exploded. We are now up to 4 people, so we're pretty psyched about that. So yeah, I'm on that side of the business.
And my name is Gary Stone. I'm the CFO of the company. I was with Emil here, one of the early guys in. I think I'm the 4th employee or something like that. You're the 5th, 6th? Somewhere around there. So we've been there for quite a while. We know where all the bodies are buried. So we're excited to help out and answer your questions.
My name's Emil Matichka. I actually remember this basement back when you guys had a food court. So I run the customer service and customer support team at Ratio. So I have about 10 to 20 people that work under me, depending the time of the year, and we answer every type of question that you can imagine. So.
All right. Yeah.
Questions? You guys have any questions? Let's start with a broad one. Why don't you guys tell us, what's it like working at a startup? You guys all chose to work at a small, new company. You could have been working at a big company doing whatever.
Yeah.
Why don't you tell us a little bit about why you chose to work at a startup, why Ratio, what's exciting about it?
Sure, sure. So I started my career at the highest level with, I came out of undergrad, went to Deloitte, worked at Disney. So I was working at the public companies, the really large blue chip companies. And then I kind of started working my way down. And the more I went down, the more fun I had, the more I enjoyed being at a startup, being at a small company where you can really feel like you can make a difference. Your decisions, you can see the consequences really quick. It's a smaller team, so you get to know everybody. There's a better connection. So for me, after I spent some time up in the public company realm, there was no question that I wanted to be in startups. So I've spent the last 15 years down playing with early stage companies. Love it. Wouldn't do anything different. And why Ratio? It's kind of interesting. About 2013, I knew one of the founders. He was a CU MBA student here, and helped him get a job at Access Ventures. Stayed in touch with him for a few years, and then one day when I was doing some consulting, he called me up and said, "Well, I need your help." And I said, "Okay." And I started to look at the company and got involved. Just doing maybe 1 day a week. And a month later, he asked for 3 days a week, and 6 months later, I was full-time. So it's exciting to join a company that's pre-revenue, that didn't even have a product out yet. We hadn't even started to manufacture yet we had purchase orders from Home Depot wanting 10,000 units. So it was pretty exciting. It was a lot of fun. Wouldn't do it any different.
I was the other side of that. I had been going to college here for my undergrad, had a small landscape company, and was kind of sick of that small business scene. Wanted to do something bigger and wasn't really sure how to get there, coming with like a service, business background. And Ratio was a amazing fit for me. Allowed me to leverage my background in lawn and landscape and apply it towards a new product and tech. So just felt like a great stepping stone onto what I plan to do hopefully later on in life.
I was similar to Gary. I was working at the Hershey company, slinging chocolate for quite a bit, doing sales analytics and marketing for them. So I came from a pretty big company down to, I knew that it was fun and it was a really great experience, but I wanted to get something a little bit smaller, work with a team that I was got to know a little bit better and really got to push, get my fingers in the business and really, like Gary said, what you do is you see the results of it. So if we launch a whatever it is, some type of digital campaign, I'm seeing the revenue numbers and I'm starting to see those percentages spike immediately. So it's pretty cool to be able to say that I pressed the button on go on this digital campaign and we just made $10,000 because of it or whatever that might be. So it's just kind of a fun feedback loop to be able to see that. I knew that I didn't want to do something quite as big as Hershey, and I was similar to where you guys were at. I just finished up my MBA in May and looking for something smaller, and one of the professors actually connected me with these guys. So just a plug to get to know your professors. They're pretty good contacts.
I don't have time for that. Just kidding. That's absolutely true. Take ownership of your education and get to know your professors. Thanks, guys. So a big exciting thing happening at Ratio is the launch of the second generation product. Why don't you tell us about that and some of the exciting things and challenges that go on with launching Gen 2?
Definitely. Yeah, I'll show it to you here. Emil, you want to talk about it?
All right, so I guess to start, how many of you guys got to see what our first generation controller looked like? Okay, it's most of you. You probably remembered that it was kind of like a modem, really. It was a box and couldn't really do anything with it. the second generation, we added a few buttons to it, which we didn't want to remove the functionality of the app from the controller itself, but we had problems with service techs out in the field being able to run a zone if they didn't have a smartphone. There's quite a few people out there yet that don't have smartphones. So we added a few buttons that make it kind of like a VCR where you can play and go fast forward, rewind type of deal. And then this opening here, we just expanded for some wires. It was a little tight in the first gen. And then the terminals, as boring as they look, there's a lot of additional technology in those now where we can actually look at current flow, and we can put flow sensors on it. So that allows us to collect a lot of data around water usage if they want to put a flow meter on their line, which in places where water is more expensive, that's becoming pretty popular. But the main logic and the software itself is all the same. It's all the same app and ran through the cloud. So it's pretty simple that way, and it was a cheaper controller to make as well, so it allows us to reduce our cost at retail. And believe it or not, this little guy, this enclosure, remember what the stats are? It's like 20%, 30% of all controllers actually get installed outdoors. And this was a big pain point for a lot of users where they were having to buy this third-party enclosure for the Gen 1, and that added significant cost to the installation. So we designed our own enclosure, which we're now one of the cheapest enclosures in the market. So just little things, trying to reduce the cost to the user to make it an easier sell.
Emil, could I follow up? You talked about cost of water. Which location in your client base has the most expensive water?
That's a good question. I believe like California, Texas are going to be the most expensive, and that's where we see most of the users, but it's places actually like in Seattle where water's the most expensive.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't think Florida's as high, but they get a lot of rain too. So.
Thank you.
Any other questions on hardware?
Question over here.
Do your customers have to upgrade to the new edition?
No, it's the first gen is future proof. Like we're always going to support it from a software perspective. It's more of if they want those buttons and lights and whatever access they want at the actual controller itself is where that's important.
So we had just to follow up on that, we had a kind of a marketing and support dilemma on that. So we have all these users that have this piece of plastic out there that they've already bought from us. We're not that old of a company, so they've bought it in ostensibly the last year. And now you're going to launch a brand new one, and you start to put yourself in the shoes of somebody who's got the old piece of plastic, similar to if the new iPhone comes out. You just bought the old iPhone, you're kind of mad. So we had this dilemma of what do we do for our current customers? Do we do anything? Do we just say tough luck and Emil has to field all these super angry calls? Or do we actually do something for them? So ultimately we came together and we gave them $100 off the new unit. So you could, if you wanted to upgrade, everybody got a promo code specific to them. And then if you wanted to get the latest and greatest, we gave you $100 off that. So you didn't have to get the full pain of $249 again. You'd be down to $149. And early results are awesome. We've gotten a really, really large chunk of our current install base to upgrade, which we projected about maybe a third of the volume that we've already gotten. So it blew all of our projections out of the water as to how many people would upgrade. So we're pretty excited about that.
Just to give you some context, so we had 30,000 active users going into this new launch. When Eric and I sat down and were working on the model and the budget to try to figure out, well, just how many of that 30,000 would actually take us up on the offer and buy the new controller for $150 and then take their old one and either pass it on to someone or sell it, which we're seeing. We probably didn't anticipate a lot of that, but we're seeing a ton of them on eBay and Craigslist and stuff. But of the 30,000, how many people do you think took us up on that? Who are the marketing folks in the room? Percentage-wise. Someone want to say? What was it? 4,000 right here? Something like that? Okay. So of the 30,000, we've had 1,300 so far take us up on that. And we had forecasted 1,000. So we're a little bit ahead, which is good. But it just goes to show you, we first thought, well, could it be 3,000? Could it be 5,000? But typically it's what, 3 to 5%. And so we're seeing pretty strong response.
Upgrade of the ratio. I want to know if with this new ratio, that your target segment has changed.
Target what?
Your target segment.
Oh, the target market.
Yeah, the target market segment has changed.
Yeah.
If it's changed, why? Or what it was your previous target segment, or if you have a current target segment.
Sure, I'll start that, and then I'll turn it over to Eric. He's the marketing guy. Right now we feel that we're still in this early majority, or actually early adopter phase, and so we're not even really scratching the surface on the majority in the mainstream that would buy this product. A lot of the people that have bought and that continue to buy and support the company are folks that are just really, they love the connected home world. They have a lot of connected home projects. They're real techie. 15 was our first full year selling the product. 14, we kind of came out half the year and missed a good part of the season. So 16 this year is really our second full year, and we're still really working through a lot of that real tech bunch. So the segment really hasn't changed. Eric, do you have?
I'm sure you guys talked about it a little bit, but because the software is the same and we're just changing out the switches that turn the knobs and dials on and off, our target market really hasn't changed. Sorry, I can't see the person that I'm talking to. But yeah, so our target market still stays the same. We're still about 90 to 92% males. Between the ages of 35 and 55 is really our sweet spot. Obviously, you need to own a home. You've got to have a sprinkler system. Those are the easy ones. But then in terms of household income, we're starting to skew a little bit lower as we start to, as Gary said, we start to move into this mainstream. Our really, really early adopters are all 200K plus, and now we're starting to slide back into 100 to 125 household income kind of range. So that's where we're targeting with a lot of our marketing efforts is that's our sweet spot. And then geographically, really like our core market is right outside of LA, any of the suburbs of LA. One, because there's a lot of those people that I just talked about, and two, because there's a lot of rebates. So you can get anywhere from $100 to $200 back as soon as you buy our product. So it's almost free once you buy it. The water municipality just gives you that $200 credit on your water bill immediately. So you're basically getting our product for free, subsidized by your water provider.
Did you guys have to work with the government in California to make sure those rebates happened for the ratio, or how did those rebates come about?
Yeah, we had to work with the EPA. So there's a certification process you go through. They run through all your algorithms and calculations, and they give you actually this fake virtual lawn with various zones and attributes of that lawn that you have to program the controller for, and you run it for 30 days, and you see how you do. And so I oversaw that back in the fall of 2014, and we passed with flying colors. And then there's other certifications around the country based upon if that utility wants additional tests done. So we're always working on refining those calculations to make it smarter.
I would just add that, when you say the government, there's the national government. So we got the EPA Water Sense certification, which is denoted on the box. That's a big deal because all the different water utilities around the country cannot give a rebate unless you are EPA WaterSense certified. So once we got that certification, it allowed us to talk to all of the different municipalities, and there's thousands of them, which is the hard part because we're trying to get to them all, and a lot of them, they don't want to advocate one particular product, right? So they usually have a whole bunch of products, you know, on the site. So it's really hard for us to get in there, even though they love our product, but they can't really, you know, promote it. But working with them, you know, we're certainly going after the biggest water districts first in California and Texas, and some of the other states.
So you said you come from a business service background. One of you sales for chocolate. Did you have to learn a lot of technical coding skills to get into this kind of app-centric, tech-heavy startup?
No. This is the short answer. No, not at all. We have an awesome dev team. Our dev team is amazing, led by our fearless CTO back there, Franz. They're amazing, and they're in the code every single day. We're all on the business side of the business. So no, I'm not doing any coding. That said, I do a lot of our analytics. So that takes a good amount of basic coding. So there's probably some SQL that gets built into that, and just some basic queries. And I know Emil touches it as well because all of our data is stuck in a database. So you've got to get it out somehow if you have to answer customer questions. So there is a baseline that's probably worthwhile at least knowing. I know I came in with a little bit. Emil, you probably didn't come in with any. So it's kind of on-the-job training where you can get it pretty quickly, but it might be something to look at because I know as we evolve, it continues to get bigger and bigger, and we use it more and more. But in terms of actually like writing SQL day in and day out, or SAS, or whatever that might be, HTML, CSS, I've fortunately been able to stay away from it. Yeah, we try to keep Gary away from it.
I have another question. We recently have a project with Russia, and we were wondering if you were, because you guys are a startup company, if you are ready to go and move to a greater states like Texas and California. And I am gladly surprised that you are doing California right now, which make me think that because it's a huge market, you have to be prepared operational to produce more product to supply that market. I want to know how do you do operationally in order to supply that huge market? How you are expanding your lines of productions?
Yeah, so I'll just clear up the first part, and then I'll let Gary take the operations side. So we are in all 50 states. We've sold product in every single one of the states in the U.S. We've also managed to squeak our way into 70 different countries throughout the world. That's all through Amazon sales, so people have found us in Romania and Tel Aviv and all over the place, all over the world. There's not a lot of units. It's usually 1 to 2 to anywhere under 10 per country, but it's pretty cool to be able to talk to those customers in Sao Paulo or wherever they might be and hear that they're loving our product and getting it to work in another country. But we are in all 50 states, so we are manufacturing for nationwide coverage as well as Canada too. So I'll let Gary talk to that.
Yeah, I mean, operationally, we're geared to manufacture right now about 60 to 70,000 units for this year. We just added a second manufacturer, a contract manufacturer, so we don't actually have a manufacturing facility and a plant and all that stuff. We've essentially outsourced that to what they call CMs, or contract manufacturers. And we have one up in Loveland by the name of Virgin, and we just added a second one this year that's based in Dallas, and they'll be coming online actually this week. I think the first 100 roll off. So that's what we're doing, and then next year both of those CMs can handle our capacity. Looking into 2018, 19, 20, that's when we're probably looking at going overseas, either to Mexico or either to Asia.
What is your company culture like with only 26 employees?
That's a good question. It's it's ever evolving. In the early days when there was 5 to 10 of us, it was a lot different than where we're at now because we've just added so many new folks in the last year. I think we ended 2014 with 10 people, so we've grown 2.5 times. It's a really fun culture. It's a very results-oriented, serious culture, but we know how to have fun. We're actually just reconfiguring the office this week, and we broke up into teams, and each team had to redo a conference room. We have 5 of them, and I think one of them's got a kegerator in it, so that'll be fun, and made it kind of a little bar sports conference room, so it's definitely a diverse group. We all, I think we all have the vision and believe in the passion of our CEO and our 2 founders, it's definitely a work hard, play hard. Culturally, it's a really interesting mix. We've got 2 former CEOs on our team that were investors that liked the company so much that they took on an operating role. That's our VP of Operations and our VP of Business Development. And then you've got our 2 founders, one of which is young. He's 35 and just had a baby yesterday, right? And then the second one, Franz, he's probably in his mid to late 40s, and they used to work together at a previous company. So I love the culture. It's a lot of fun. Our format, if you come to our office, is all open. There's no cubes. Everyone's kind of at a desk, kind of like this, right? And so I can yell down the office and to our CTO, and he can. It's because we have hardwood floors and brick. The sound resonates, so he can hear me and so it's very open. It's very transparent. Nobody has really anything to hide. I don't know. I'll let you guys kind of comment on what you think about the culture, but I love it. It's a fun place, and it's a challenge too, because as you grow, you got to be really careful at the who comes in, because they will change the dynamic. But so far we've been pretty good, and I don't think it's strayed too much from the early days, but let you guys
comment. Yeah, to Gary's last point, hiring early on is really important. You definitely see if someone's a fit early on, and we've had a few people come and go that didn't fit what the culture was. There's 100 things to do every day and maybe time for 20, so you're constantly prioritizing, getting stuff done, reorganizing for the next day, and trying to keep up. So if that isn't something you're capable of doing, it's probably not a good fit for you. It's not a 9-to-5 job. A lot of people, like, we use Slack, if you guys are familiar with that, and there's discussions going on all night. So yeah, you're there during the day, but the work keeps going on, so for what that's worth.
Yeah, I think it's nice because there's kind of a common vision and there's kind of a common structure and goal towards it. Everybody's there because they love the culture and they love the people that are working there. It's a tight-knit group of people. And I think a lot of that stems from all of our love to, trying to save water and trying to do the right thing, and having that mission-driven kind of business as well. That's a good kind of thread that runs through quite a few of us in terms of trying to keep people together. It makes the 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 o'clock nights a whole lot more meaningful when you know that what you're doing is having an impact, rather than maybe not just trying to push your stock price up or whatever that might be. So I think that has a lot to do with it. And then also it's, like Gary said, it's, everybody's cranking on the business, but we do take time to relax and have a good time too. You'll see our CEO buzz by on the Segway quite a bit, and he just bought a one-wheel, so you'll see him zipping around on that too. So it's just kind of a fun culture that you can, after you crank down on a bunch of work for a whole bunch, you take 10 minutes and go play a game of darts or have a beer at the kegerator and enjoy. So we also, I don't know, pretty awesome. We were pretty excited about this. Is one of our dev team on the kegerator, they found a way to change. If you change from zone 1 to zone 2, you can pick the type of beer that you get out of the kegerator. So we were pretty excited about that dev breakthrough.
Yeah, Yeah, I would just say that we do a lot of other fun things together. We try to go out once a quarter. We've gone to that Unser Racing place after we raised our Series A round in November. That was a ton of fun. We've got a curling event coming up. One of the guys likes curling, I guess, so we're gonna go figure out how to do that funny event, Olympic event. And then we have an offsite coming up. You know, that's going to be up in Vail. We're going to spend a couple of days. The executive team's going to go up first, and then the rest of the company is going to join for a free day on a Monday. So that's coming up, what, in about 2 weeks? Less than 2 weeks, right? Week and a half. So lots of stuff, and it's something we're very mindful of too, right? Because creating a culture, creating a positive place where people want to come work, you know, is very important to us, and it's what I spend a lot of my time thinking about.
On my last visit to Ratio, I noticed that the floor was strewn with Nerf darts.
Yep. Yeah, we all have Nerf guns. It's a prerequisite before you start. You have to buy a Nerf gun.
I felt a little unsafe, but
yeah. Okay. And about 4 o'clock every day, warfare erupts. It's pretty funny to hear all those things go off at the same time, and you're ducking for cover, and you hear them hit all sorts of stuff. But that's just one of the weird, quirky things about our company. But it's a lot of fun.
Other questions?
So I guess looking forward, based on your different roles in the company and the teams that you have under you, what do you think is the biggest challenge Ratio faces, and how do you think your functions stand ready to address it?
Yeah, that's a good question. You know, we're really, it's still really early in this category, and connected home is still really early. And so I think our biggest challenge is really carving out that brand and being considered top of mind when someone says, what are the top 5 connected home products? And we're listed as one of the top 5, along with Nest and the lights and the locks and the others that are out there. So, and then we've got competition too. And you know, one of the big challenges that we know is coming is the incumbents in this space who we've disrupted, the Hunters, the Rainbirds, the Toros, right? These are multi-billion-dollar companies that have been around for 100 years. And they've largely sat on the sidelines and watched us take some of their market share. And it hasn't really been a lot so far. But this year, next year, it's going to be meaningful. And so they're going to come out with something. And we're waiting for that to happen. And so our challenge is to constantly innovate, come out with new generation products. We're coming out with a new version of our software, the app, which will be out in probably April or May. And so staying ahead of that curve and keep developing that brand is one of our biggest challenges, I think.
For my team, it's scaling and training, at the speed of that training. So we're a very seasonal business. We go from a very quiet winter, you know, due to the seasonality of sprinklers, to suddenly everyone wants to turn on their sprinklers when it gets warm. And we will scale from like a team of 5 outsourced frontline agents up to 15 or 20 in about a month. So getting those agents trained and confident on the product enough to be able to answer the phone and sound intelligent is a challenge, and then being able to stay in front of that demand curve and know when to scale back down so you're not spending money that you shouldn't be. So that's the biggest challenge that my team faces.
So Emil answers all these emails. Every time he says the number, it just boggles my mind how many emails we answer.
I'm trying to remember off the top now. So emails and calls are a function of the number of activations that we see. So on a busy weekend, or even like right now, we'll do 100 to 200 activations a day. And then during the summer, that number will increase by 3 or 4. You know, so you're looking at potentially 1,000 units coming on board in one day. And if there's any issue that day on the software front, or people just having questions of how to do their wiring, they're calling you. So making sure you're staffed appropriately to handle all those inbound calls at the right service levels, which means you're able to answer like 80 or 90% of them within like 30 seconds. And then having enough people on the other end of that team answering emails and getting back to them within a certain service level, say like 12 hours or less, those numbers can swing quite a bit. And so you have to have this workforce that you can essentially turn on and off with a switch so that you're not paying for dead time that you don't need. But yeah, back to like calls, we'll usually do 100 plus calls a day, and then we'll handle, you know, a couple hundred email a day. So we do about a 20-80 split on phone calls to emails.
Can I jump in here with a follow-up? If you just go online and read the reviews, like on Amazon or something, customer service comes up a lot. You guys are known, and a lot of the reviews mention getting really good service. Do you see that as an important part of your brand?
Of course.
So so this issue is a critical issue as you grow. Yep. Maintaining customer service?
Certainly. You know, you're paying a couple $100 for this product, and you expect to plug it in and it works. If it doesn't, that's my team's job to figure out why it's not working and how we can get that resolved, hopefully in 10 minutes or less. So that is like one aspect for me, coming from like a small business background, where I found that relationships and that customer service element of my business was a competitive advantage compared to all the other small businesses. So that's something that I've tried to carry forward at Ratio.
Yeah, real quick, I'll just add, I mean, one of the things we've over-allocated resources on early on has been on the customer service side. Emil has a staff of people. We also used 2 outsourced call centers, one in Oregon and the other is where? Austin. And so that's been a really big part of building that brand and building that credibility early on, which has separated us from a lot of the other competitors. About 2 or 3 other competitors that do what we do. And if you look at their reviews versus our reviews, I think we have a 4.7 on Amazon, and the next closest is 4.1, and then 3.5. So it's definitely something we've over-allocated resources on, but we did that intentionally.
With respect to the kinds of technology or solutions you have to give to customers when they call, is it because the customer just isn't quite tech savvy enough and you just need to sort of walk them through, or is there something else going on typically?
I call it laziness. It goes back to grade school, and there's instructions on the top of the worksheet. You don't read them.
Are you all listening to this as students about reading instructions? Did you hear that?
We have, yeah. We have an install guide and support articles and videos. You know, it's pretty clear early on in the phone call or that email if they've done any sort of self-help research themselves. And to be honest, half the time, at least early on when I was answering emails, I was just Googling it for them, sending them back a reply. So.
Okay, good. All right, and then there's a student question here. Just a minute.
So you guys said that you've distributed to all 50 states and 70 countries. So obviously you distribute in a lot of markets. What's your biggest challenge with distribution?
You want to take that? To be honest, I'd say our biggest challenge is probably forecasting and keeping up with that demand curve and making sure you have enough units in the places that need to be fast enough. Outside of that, it's pretty simple to get the product there. Do you think anything else, Gary?
Yeah, I mean, distribution-wise, we have to have what's called 3PL, third-party logistics. So we have our manufacturer up in Loveland that's actually acting as our 3PL. So they make the product and then they store it, and then we then instruct them every morning on where to send product. And so we've been really fortunate that they've been able to do that for us. It's cost us a little bit more, and what we've done this year is done some things to kind of bring that cost down. We've also parked a bunch of units up at Amazon, Fulfillment by Amazon, and they have warehouses all throughout the country. So that helps with our distribution as well. We have looked at doing some international distribution. We were talking to some folks down in New Zealand and Australia. Really didn't go anywhere. We sent them, I don't know, a case of units and haven't heard from them in a while. There was a lot of interest overseas last year. It's kind of died down a lot now, but primarily this is more of a U.S.-centric product. I know Australia's going to need it. The UK is another one we would go after just because it's English-speaking. We don't have to localize the product as much or change the language. But they're really small. I mean, Europe, people have contacted us and they want to be our distributor there. But going in, this is a whole other probably class session, but going overseas is incredibly expensive, and you need to really commit and be willing to invest in putting the infrastructure and getting in and learning how to do business over there. It's not something that we're going to spend a whole lot of time doing this year, and maybe next year, but for certainly this year we won't.
I'll just echo real quick on the Amazon piece. I don't know if you guys know too much about that, but so they don't just they sell the products obviously, but they also do a lot of the back end workforce as well. It's a really awesome service that they have, and they just have warehouses everywhere, and we can send products. Anybody can do this. So if you want to set up a business that you want to sell something, you can send Amazon your product, and for a cost, obviously, they will warehouse it and then send it out to any of your customers that are buying it from you. So you can set up a shop on whatever you might be. You're selling widgets. You've got 10,000 widgets sitting in Amazon's warehouses. You don't have to touch any of that. You just send them the orders, and they ship it out for you. So it's a really awesome service that we've been able to tap into. It's just basically using the back end of Amazon and using their fulfillment expertise to help a small business like ourselves grow and scale. So, and I just wanted to quickly go back to your question real quick on the marketing front. So I don't know if you guys got to take any classes with Professor John Lynch, but he's an awesome professor, and he had a profound statement that doesn't sound profound, but it is the biggest problem that we have in marketing is, so I'm going to say it, and you're going to say this is stupid, but people can't buy your product if they don't know about your product. So that's the biggest barrier that we have in marketing is just awareness. People don't know about us. They don't know that they don't have a problem. They have no idea what a smart sprinkler is. They've never heard of one. All of those problems are basically our biggest problem. So you can't buy it unless you know about us.
We got a question here.
You guys said that you guys have like 2 ex-CEOs and whatnot, and kind of intimidating coming from a college student perspective. What do you guys look for when you're employing new employees?
Yeah, so I'll start. All three of us are not ex-CEOs, so I'll start there. It's really when we're at this stage right now. We're such a small company. It's very much role driven at this point. So we have a hole, we have pain in customer service, we need help there. So we're looking for expertise there. Beyond that, actually having core functional expertise, it's all about the culture. So we're just looking to see how you think, how you've worked through problems, what you've done in the past, talking to people that you've worked with in the past. Because we talked about it a little bit earlier with the culture that we have right now, we can't afford to have a bad hire at this stage. It can get toxic and people start to talk to each other and it can just destroy your culture really quickly. So it is something that we take very seriously as we're hiring through. But a lot of it's just getting to know you and getting to know who you are and your passions, and if your passions align with ours and it seems like a good fit, that's really what we're looking for.
I was just going to add to that question on hiring. When I have someone submit their resume to me, I'm always looking for a passion and what they want to do. I don't want you on my team just because you know how to answer an email and can push out production numbers that way. I want you to want to be at the company and you want to save water and you want to help other people do that. So that's a big aspect of it. And it shines through on people when they're interviewing if they really want to be there or if they're just looking for a job.
Okay, here we go.
Okay. So as you guys are starting to grow and gradually gain notoriety, do you find that you're actively seeking and reaching out to add employees to your workforce? Or are people coming to you and looking for jobs, or do you guys feel just comfortable with the amount of employees you have right now to satisfy customer demand?
I think that depends on the role. There's certain roles in the company that you always have people coming and sending resumes into. You have other roles that you have to go hunting for. So it's a tough question to give a solid yes or no to.
Yeah, I mean, we get a lot of inbound people that have heard about us that ask us if we're hiring. So we get a fair amount of that. You know, hiring, it's interesting. You know, it really comes down to networking, and I don't know if you guys spend a lot of time talking about that or if it's in any of the curriculum, but one of the best ways to get a job or find a job with a small company is being well networked and spending time and investing time in your network. I think all of us didn't come through a recruiter. You know, it's we knew somebody at the company or we knew someone that referred us into the company. And if you look back at the 25 people or so that we have, I think 4 have come via a recruiter, and the rest have all come from just you know, knowing people and extending out through our network. So I don't know if did I answer your question? Okay. All right.
Let's do one more student question over here, and then we'll take a quick break.
You mentioned about marketing and the brand awareness. Yeah, our professors here also insist on that. That is very important. What do you guys are doing right now to generate awareness in your brand?
Yeah. Well, hopefully everybody here is going to tell 10 of their favorite friends about who Ratio is, and so we start to get some referrals that way. A lot of our marketing efforts right now are, so it's kind of twofold. One, our biggest paid spend is all on the digital side, so it's getting digital ads out there to the people that we want to see our ads, and start to reach people that way in terms of getting new people into the funnel. The other side of the business, you know, I joked about it just a minute ago, but in all seriousness, we start to see these little clusters of people come online. So one neighbor will buy this thing, and they get super psyched about it, and they tell 5 people all around them, hey, you should probably check this thing out. And then you start to see the little neighborhood just kind of light up, and it grows exponentially that way. So it really has been a word-of-mouth referral kind of thing, and you can see it because I map out. We have our activations on a giant map, so we can see where everybody is, and you just start to see these little clusters start to grow. So it's a lot of referral, word-of-mouth marketing, and that's a good testament to the customer service team because they had a really great experience. They called up customer service on the second ring. Somebody actually answered them, and they were in, you know, Oregon instead of India, and they could talk to them, and they were psyched about it. So it's a lot of that. Just, you know, they get a really great experience, and they want to come back and they want to tell their friends, and that's driven a lot of it. And you don't have to pay for that either, so that's a nice thing.
All right, let's take a 10-minute break, guys. Come back at 10:05.
everybody. Thank you. Welcome back. During the break, we were talking about up here something that's really fantastic for the program. So what you see on the right screen, of course, is a fantastic picture of the product and the use. And Gary, I'll let you take it from there.
Okay. So one of the things I wanted to bring up, and I think it sort of goes to the nature of this group or this session and the way that classes are taught and how integrated it is that even though I was trained in accounting, I started off as a CPA, and I've worked my way up. When you go to a small company, you're really getting your hands dirty in every single area. So when we started and there was just five, six of us, and we were about to launch the product, everyone kind of jumped in and did everything. And a great example was when I saw this picture. That's actually my backyard, and we took that up there. We did a whole bunch of photos in my garage and in the backyard, and you just do what you need to do to get the product out. And I was also involved in operations and manufacturing, which was a great experience because it really broadened me out. But the point is when you work in a small company, you just got to be prepared to do whatever and jump in and do whatever. And I know you guys, and I know Emil, certainly, with your background, we've all had to do a lot of different things in order to be where we are today. So I just wanted to start off with that, and it still looks good. My lawn looked like that for about 1 week, and then it went to hell. But thankfully, we caught it at the right time.
Well, I was just gonna say, just from a career progression kind of thing, if you're looking at startups, I'd really suggest looking at them. Just from if you're not exactly sure what part of the business you want to go into, if you're kind of looking at marketing, but you kind of have an eye to finance, or you might have an eye to operations, it's a really great way to fail fast and fail cheap kind of thing. So you can find out what you're good at and what you're not so good at, and find what your strengths are and find what you love to do. It's an awesome opportunity. So I'd just say, bigger companies, you get into a role and you will be doing that role, whereas a smaller company, you can start to explore a little bit more. So I just, word to the wise of an opportunity to look at.
So I know in the beginning you guys had some quality control issues with the hard casing and that kind of thing, and having it I think it didn't snap correctly or something. How did you guys approach that, and what effect did that have on your product?
Yeah, it sounds like Lori might have paid you off on that one. I'll let Gary talk to that with that.
Yeah, we had a couple of real fun challenges when the product came out, and I want to kind of set the stage. When in 2013 and early 14, we got contacted by the buyer at Home Depot, and this never happens, right? Because everyone always asks us, how did you get into Home Depot? They came to us. They saw an article that was written by somebody here locally. The buyer called our founder and said, really like what you're doing. Could you fly out and demo the product? And at the time, they didn't even have a product, and they jury-rigged something, and they flew out there. They installed it in the buyer's house, and he was able to turn it off and on. Very simple, limited functionality. And he came back and said, that's great. I'd like to do an exclusive with you guys and order 12,000 pieces for 2014. We're like, wow. And then we were like, holy shit, how are we going to do that? Because we hadn't even manufactured the product, and we hadn't even really designed it. So that came together really quickly. And so when you do that, in the back of your mind, you know that something may not go right. And there were a couple of things that didn't go right that thankfully did not kill the company, because it really could have. And the first thing that happened was there was a light pipe, and the way you connected to the internet was based on this chipset where you had to take your phone and it would blast light into the photo sensor, and then it would take the credentials from your phone and pass it to the controller and connect it to the Wi-Fi. And so there was a light pipe design issue or problem, and that problem resulted in a failure rate of about 10 to 15%. And we discovered that after 5,000 units had already gone to Home Depot, and they were out there. They were in the stores, and we knew it because customers were calling us up and saying, I can't get this to work. And poor Emil over here got absolutely hammered when we discovered that. And I don't even want to think how many hours and late nights and little sleep you got trying to address that. And so as a company, we had to make a really tough decision. And the decision was, do you leave those units out at Home Depot? You know they're going to be bad. You know customers might potentially pick up on that, and it might show up on your reviews, and it might show up out in the media. And you just replace them as they go bad and take care of it. Or do you do something proactive, and you do something like a product recall, where you send someone out to 1,000 different Home Depot stores throughout the country and identify those bad units and replace them with good units and put them back on the shelf. That costs about $50,000 as a small company. We had only raised $1.2 million to date, so we were really low on cash. And despite that, we as a group came together, we talked about it, debated it, and we made the decision to go spend the $50,000 and pull the product out because we wanted to save and protect our reputation and our credibility. So that was one problem. And the other problem you mentioned was that there was some tolerance issues with our plastics manufacturer here. And I don't have the first product, but the way it came together, it was designed to be able to pull apart fairly easily, but it was out of spec, and I don't know how many thousands of units were made that way. Maybe it was a couple hundred, I don't remember, but it wasn't that many. But what was happening was people were putting it on the wall, and they were screwing it into the wall, and then because the tolerance was out of spec, it wouldn't come apart very easily. So when they tried to pull it off, they were tearing it right out of the wall. And we had people who just were not happy. And so we had to deal with that and replace those units and get with the plastics manufacturer to resolve that. So those were two. I mean, and we're always going to have some. We have one I think we mentioned already right now. I don't know if we did, but our current product right now, the light pipe right here is a little bit defective, and there's some bubbles in the plastic, and our plastics manufacturer shipped these without doing the right QA, and that's a problem because our manufacturer in Loveland made 2,500 of these units. Thankfully, they haven't gone out to anybody yet, but it means now that we have to go pull apart each one of these and replace the light pipe, and it's going to cost that plastics manufacturer $50,000 to do it. Not on us. We're not paying for this one. But they're going to pay $50,000, which is a lot of money for them. But that's what good QA prevents.
Just kind of a funny story, just talking back to everybody takes a different hat and everybody wears different hats. When we found out about the tolerance issue, I came in the morning, and Emil's in the front conference room, and he has a Dremel, and he's dremeling down all of these units. So I just hear zzz. I open up the door. I was like, what are you doing? He's like, I got to fix all of these units. And he has a stack of units that he's literally dremeling the plastics down so that they will not stick anymore. So just a kind of a fun, small company story there. Yeah.
I'm just wondering if you guys think that there are commercial or agricultural applications for your software.
Yeah, certainly. The software would work on it. It's, do we want to build the hardware for it, and what's the market potential for that unique piece of hardware? Our product's built for residential, like commercial use, so it's a much bigger market for that than agriculture, and that commercial and agricultural market already has controllers that do something like this. What we did is we simplified that and put it onto the app interface, and then we reduced the cost that most people would have to pay for that. Usually there's like a monthly fee to have that sort of scheduling engine running for you.
This one's mainly for Gary. as the company continues to grow, is there any plans to take the company public, or how are you going to continue to raise capital?
Good question. Since I've worked in public, I would say the answer is no. I don't think we want to go public, just because of all the administration and all the things you got to go through. I don't think we'll ever be large enough to go public these days. Back when I took a company public in '99, we were 20 million in revenue. I think there's a small chance. I think that because we're venture capital backed, I think investors will probably look for some type of exit, in that 5 to 10 year time frame. As far as raising money, we just raised 7 million, so we have 10 million in the company total right now. We're looking at maybe doing another round in 2017, probably in the 10 to 20 million dollar range. Right now, as long as we keep growing, we'll have and the markets stay open and we don't go into an 08 or an 09 type situation. We should be able to raise funds from the VCs and even the PEs as we get a little larger. No, going public is not high on my list.
All right, so for our project with you guys, we spent a lot of time looking at new target segments like landscapers and selling more to that B2B, and looking at those kind of projections. Is that a current target market that you have, or a current market at all, or is it something you're actually looking into?
Yeah, so we've been, it's kind of a love-hate relationship there. We've been trying to work with these guys for quite a while. We've had quite a few different challenges with those, with that group of folks. We've had some really good successes, and we've had, pro groups that love our controller and get it. They get the multi-device. You can control all of your houses from your truck. You don't have to actually drive to the site and do anything. You can save a whole lot of labor savings and time savings there. And then you have, so the scale is there, that they get it and they're excited about it. And then the other side of the scale is, I have a flip phone and I can't use this thing. It doesn't make sense for me. So it's, you have pros all along that scale. And anyone might be able to talk a little bit more about those. But we've been trying to work with quite a few of them. Currently, we're, as we've kind of evolved a little bit more, it's definitely a market that we want to continue to talk to. But a lot of it we've seen is people are looking to get this installed or need some help with it. They'll call their landscape professional. So we're starting to look at it more of a pull channel where we'll pull those people into our solution via marketing to the actual customer. And once the customer gets it in their hand, if they need help, or once their landscaper comes to their house and they see that they've flipped out their irrigation control, they're obviously going to have to learn our solution and get on board with it. So I'll let you know.
Yeah, it's an interesting love-hate relationship. Personally, it pains me to see that the landscapers so slow to adopt it, being one in my past life, if you will. And what you really have to look at is what's their business model. And a lot of them make money by going out and more or less adjusting someone's clock. So they have to adjust their own business model and become a little bit more progressive themselves. And those that are doing that are loving it and seeing the potential in it. And other ones that are afraid to make that change, they're very hesitant to it. And there's also some issues around technology with a lot of those guys as well. They're not networking guys. They don't understand Wi-Fi. They're sometimes afraid to use it, and that's going to always stand in their way with our product, at least.
Yeah, I think we call them one truck chucks, don't we? Yeah. It's a challenging market segment because traditionally 60 to 70% of all sprinkler controllers were sold through the professional landscaping channel. 60 to 70%, right? So even though they're on the shelf at Home Depot and at Lowe's, not very many were really sold there. But now you've got a connected home product, and we're starting to see that kind of flip. And so most of the people that are buying the product, so far at least, have been the DIY folks, the do-it-yourself folks, and they're doing it on their own. And so it's not going through that channel. So it'll be interesting to see in a couple of years just kind of where does this all shake out. So that's one thing we're keeping a close eye on.
Yeah, to add to that, on the installation front, an interesting segment that we found was the home automation contracting group. So, like a great partner that we've found in the last year has been Dish Network. They have a nationwide coverage of technicians that can go out and they love technology, and they're setting up, satellite dishes to home networks that way. And those guys are a much better fit short term for us until those landscapers catch up.
It's about your company. What is the percentage of women that are working in your company at this time?
It's a good question. We have 3. Yep.
It's a big challenge in the tech community to try to balance that out. It's something we're very aware of since I'm in charge of HR. I talk to these guys. We all talk about it. But from a development standpoint, there's just not a lot of female developers out there yet. I think there's a lot coming up through the ranks. But in terms of what we're looking for in finding the seniority, it's really hard. But yeah, I mean, we've got to figure out a way to balance it out.
So I noticed on Amazon, you guys, I'm not sure if it's like just Amazon doing this, but some of your units were like discounted. Like instead of being 250 and 300, they were like 175 and 215. So I was wondering whose profit margins does that cut into when Amazon does that?
Yeah, that's a big question. I'm just going to turn that over to Eric.
So that's actually touching on a pretty hot button that we've been talking about. So Amazon's, how it's set up is you can sell through Amazon and your product is listed there. But Amazon is an open platform, so anybody can sell on Amazon. So if you have 10 ratios that you found on the back of a truck, you can put them up on Amazon and start selling them for whatever price that you deem necessary for that price. And unfortunately, the lowest price is what shows on the front page. So on our Gen 1 unit right now, we've done various discounts on different channels, and there's a lot of different things that have happened. There's a lot of people that have units in their hands right now, and they're just basically trying to flip them for a couple extra dollars, make a little profit margin on that. To answer on your profit margin question, we sold those at the full profit margin that we were expecting on the front end. Somebody got it then at that price point, and then they're trying to now flip it for a higher price point. So we did some deals on woot.com, which is where we were clearing a lot of our Gen 1 inventory when we were trying to move to Gen 2. And we were at a pretty low price point there. So if somebody got a Woot deal at whatever it is, 130, 140, and now they're selling it for 175, it's kind of an issue that we're dealing with. So we've had a lot of internal discussions of how much does that hurt us? What impact does it have on us trying to hold price? All that kind of thing. And then there's that leads to the discussion of, well, do you just take a look at every single one of these third-party sellers and you just buy up all their inventory so that they're now no longer selling your units? And how sustainable is that for the future as well? So what we've come down to is, Gen 1 is kind of behind us, so we're not as worried about price points on the Gen 1 product. We have a price point of $199 on the 16 zone and $149 on the $179 on the 8 zone. So that's what we're going to hold price at. If somebody wants to try and sell it for $110 or whatever it might be, it's a Gen 1 product. It's not our flagship product anymore, and it's kind of up to them to do that.
Yeah, that's been a huge challenge. Amazon's marketplace and the way it works has really wreaked havoc on our ability to kind of keep prices at a certain level, because we sell to Amazon, and if someone comes in and undercuts Amazon, they drop their price to the point where they might even lose money or make no money. But it's all automated in the way that works. So it's a challenge, and as we're going through this changeover from a Gen 1 to a Gen 2 product, we have given some decent deals out, and we've actually helped Best Buy and we've helped Home Depot sell their remaining product by offering them some incentives when they do that, or essentially some discounts on future orders. And the problem is, it's a great arbitrage opportunity, and there's a lot of people out there that pick up on that. And when Home Depot in certain markets dropped the Gen 1 controller down to $88, which was the lowest we saw it, people were buying those like crazy and putting them on Amazon for 140, 150 bucks, and they were making some decent money. It's totally legal, but that's what's happening is we're trying to work through and get rid of a lot of the Gen 1 product. And we even had some, even in our Pass It On promotion that we just did with Gen 2, we've had a number of people that somehow were able, they had maybe they bought 5 controllers over the year, and so they were able to buy 5 new controllers at 150 bucks. Well, no sooner than a week goes by, I'm looking on, I think it was either eBay or Amazon, and there's someone out there with 3 of our brand new controllers trying to sell it. And we're like, well, how in the world could they get that so fast? But I mean, if there's an opportunity, you'll see it on Amazon or eBay, and they'll try to, make a quick buck.
So I'm just curious if you consider Ratio to be more of a sprinkler company or more of a software company, and how that's going to impact the strategy for the future.
Yeah. So we really see ourselves as a software company. If you ask our founders, they're software guys. Hardware has just been sort of a necessary evil. But we consider ourselves, if you look at our app, if anyone's played around on our app before, you'll see that we're clearly more of a software company. Building the box isn't that hard, really. It costs a lot of money, but at the end of the day, all it is a switch, right? The brains of our technology and having it, increase and decrease your time, your watering times, and all the zones. All of that's really built into the software. So going forward, that's kind of how we look at ourselves. But at the same time, the VC or the investment community looks at us as a hardware company, right? We don't have recurring revenue, and that was a huge problem when we were out on the road trying to raise money and knocking on Sand Hill Road in Silicon Valley, and they all wanted to talk to us because they were all kind of intrigued with what we were doing. But when we told them we didn't have recurring revenue yet, they all pretty much passed and said, "Come back to us when you have recurring revenue," which is something we're testing this year, where we might sell this for $49 or $75, and then charge $2 a month or $5 a month or something like that. So we are experimenting with that.
Hey, I was wondering what % of your sales are online, and also if you guys have trouble with abandoned carts online.
Abandoned carts. I'll let Eric speak to that.
So a vast majority of our sales come online. Amazon is by far our biggest partner for retail. The Apple stores and the Best Buy stores and Home Depot stores. And, well, that's online. Yeah. They do well. They do well, but similar to what you would think is it's a nice showcase for our product. A lot of people will do, if they buy it at Home Depot, they do all of their research and start to look at the product and find that they want to buy it. And then they surf over to Home Depot and say, oh, it's available there. I'm going to go pick it up today. Or it's at Best Buy. I'm going to go pick it up today. So that's a lot of that channel sales that come that way. But like I said, a vast majority of it is on Amazon. In terms of the abandoned carts, so Amazon has an amazing marketing platform that we utilize to the fullest. You have to pay a certain percentage of your sales, and then you get put into this marketing cloud, and then they do a lot of retargeting, abandoned cart remarketing, all of that. They do that for you based on their algorithms. So you just pay a percent of sales up front to be able to tap into that algorithm. So on the Amazon side, it's awesome. They do a lot of emails and that kind of thing. On our own store, we just switched over to the Shopify platform, and we do some of the same type of stuff. So if you stick the item in your cart on our store and you abandon, you'll get a nice little email saying, hey, are you sure you wanted to leave? We'll hang on to this cart for you if you want to come back, kind of thing. So we do have that in place.
Back when you had like 5 employees, did you ever go through a phase where you just wanted to quit and just cut everything? And if so, how did you get through that obstacle?
Yep. There was about a month or two where I started to rethink decisions I had made. I would say a lot of that wasn't so much the company, it was my manager at that time. And I wasn't really given much freedom to work. Everything had to go through him. And given my background with running my own business, that was hard. So once that got changed, it's been great ever since and very exciting. So
Let me add some color to that one. So what Emil's referring to is we had a co-founder who really, to put it nicely, he just wasn't, he didn't have the personality to be in a startup, to make the decisions and to really be a part of that kind of a culture. And it was very disruptive, and it was very hard. It was very hard to see Emil kind of under that structure because he, like he said, he had his own business, but he was a micromanager. He controlled everything, and at the same time, he was one of those where he would wait to try to get 100% information before he made a decision. And in a startup, you can't do that, right? You probably are lucky to get 50%, maybe 60%, and you just got to go on gut, right, and hope it works out. And he wasn't like that. And so it got to the point where the other founder, who was more of the product and the technology, this guy was more marketing and sales of a background. It got to the point where they had it out one day, and they said, you know, the one that was more technical said, look, either you leave or I leave. And if I leave, this company's toast. So you have to leave. And he did. He did. And it was hard. It was a really, really tough time in our company. This was before we had sold the product to Home Depot, so we were in the process of manufacturing. Right? This is probably, what, March or April of 2014. And I was a contract employee at the time, and I was trying to advise both and try to, you know, keep the peace and resolve it. But and it turns out the guy that I'm talking about, the one who left, was the guy that brought me into the company. He was the guy that I knew, and he brought Emil in, and so, you know, it was really hard for that to happen. But you know what? It's something that if you survey startup companies and you look at you know, a case like this where a founder just wasn't the right fit and ended up leaving, I bet it's probably, you know, 30–40% of the time. It happens a lot. So, good question.
Right.
Okay, so we know with the product itself, there's a huge emphasis on sustainability, as you can see, like by the amount of gallons saved and everything on the website. It's a huge focus. But how do you think it affects within the company itself, not just the product?
Yeah, so as I kind of alluded to a little bit earlier, that was one of the big reasons that I came on board with this company was having that mission-driven feel to it, and having something greater than just a profit margin that you're trying to drive. Obviously, it's nice to make money, but it's always nice to have something bigger as well. So, you know, like I said earlier, I think it's pretty pervasive across the group. If you talk to most of our employees and ask, you know, why you're here, what drove you to come to Ratio, a lot of it is, you know, the water savings. It has a big mission. It has, you know, we're trying to do something that's bigger than just yourself kind of thing. So I think it's pretty pervasive, and it's a big piece of the culture. It's something that I will admit we haven't done a very good job of outward messaging or solidifying, and that's definitely on the marketing team to figure out what that looks like and how do we manifest that in our brand as we start to build a brand voice and that type of thing. we're still working through it, I guess, is where I'm going here. But we do all have that pervasive message, so it's just how do we get it outward and get people to know about it, other than just, you know, hey, we saved over 500,000 gallons of, or 500 million gallons of water. We're shooting for 1 billion this year, so it's something that we're working on. Definitely.
Why did you guys choose to do a $100 discount rather than like a buyback program for the old system? Because I feel like people in California could potentially be making a profit off of your product if they get like the $200 rebate, and then they exchange their old one for $150, and then they spent $200 and have 2 units, could potentially sell both and make money, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. So that was a big sales chat that we were chatting about and figuring out what we wanted to do. A good chunk of it came down to we had enough Gen 1 units and we didn't want any more back. So taking those back, it's a pretty decent sized expense. You got to take it back to your manufacturing plant. They have to check through it. They've got to do all their diagnostics to make sure it's a working unit. You are then flipping it over. You're sticking a refurbished sticker on it because it's been touched by our manufacturing team, so we can no longer sell it at $249. We have to sell it at a discount. And at that point, after all of those hands are touched, we may have even lost money on that unit at that point. So it was a cognizant decision that we decided to make, just because of all the costs included, and you know, we had enough Gen 1 units. But yeah, it's a good point.
So I actually have a question. I know that can you tell us more about your relationship with Nest?
So we've been working with Nest for the past year and a half or so. It's been pretty much since the beginning. So we have 2 different integrations with them. The first one is with their energy report. So every single month, Nest, if you have a Nest thermostat, they send you an energy report, and it says you've used X amount of energy. So they're trying to turn that into a bigger whole home resource use report. So we are now porting them water data, so you can start to see your energy use as well as your water data. So you can start to see a bigger holistic picture of how your home uses resources. So that's the first integration. The second integration is more of a fun one that we did with the Nest Protect, and that's if your smoke alarm goes off at a certain setting, I think it's whatever they have, their 5-alarm fire, whatever it might be, you can cycle through your sprinkler system to wet down your grass so that fire won't spread to your garage or your neighboring houses. So it's a little bit of a protection thing, along with just another way to strengthen a relationship with Nest and frankly get people that have bought a Nest Protect to be aware of our products. There's a lot of marketing on their website that we're able to tie together now as we have those integrations. So we see quite a bit of traffic coming from the Works with Nest page, that people buy a Nest Protect, and then they're trying to figure out what other products can I buy that might work with this, and then our product gets listed on that. And then on the business side, we also have some relationships on the pro side. So we have the Nest folks, their selling team can now sell our product to their pro market. So if they have installers that are coming to them, their HVAC installers or whatever that might be, they can come to you and say, hey, I want 10,000 Nest thermostats, and I also want 500 Rachios because I want to install both of these in my homes that I'm installing in. So there's a bit of a business implication there that we're going to continue. And we always continue to try and find new and innovative ways to work with them. So they're a great company to work with.
So let's wrap it up now. And we'll have some time now if you guys have some individual questions that you'd like to ask afterwards. But please, let's thank Gary and Emil and Eric from Ratio for joining us today. And we have an end of session clicker question.
We brought some swag up here if you guys want some stickers, and anybody who wants to play poker, we got some poker chips. Feel free to come up and take them.
And if you know any males in the 35 to 55 demographic, which is a really exciting group of people, make sure you tell them about Ratio or force them to buy one. Okay?